Madam Web, the movie where the plot summary is...
Ezekiel Sims. He was in the Amazon with my mom when she was researching spiders right before she died.
After that, the rest of the movie is just running from him. I'd like to say there was more to it, but it's really difficult to do when everyone's got the emotive range of Pablo Schreiber's face.
Tell me why I should trust you.
The worst thing is, yes, the villain is a bad guy because at the start he shoots 3 people. Also, he can get the spider and get superpowers. But also, that's like 30 years in the past, and in the present, he's only trying to kill the girls because he gets a premonition of the future that they're going to kill him. He's essentially acting in self-defense. And you can be like, yeah, well, he killed those people over there. Yeah, but it was 30 years ago, though. I'm not sure you can use that as an excuse for the present.
It's very stiff, and I mean, you can barely bend your legs.
And this movie definitely tries to make the whole moral grey area, oh, he can't be evil. In the movie, as he's shooting people in the face at the start, he's like, I came from nothing, I had nothing. And so what, now you're gonna shoot people? Oh, very sympathetic. But then for the rest of the movie, which means he's been repeating this for decades, he just keeps going, I came from nothing, I was born with nothing. It doesn't expand on it. That's literally his lines. That's why I think Madam Web really should have been released on streaming. At least then I could have taken the piss properly out of it, because that would be the only way I could get any enjoyment out of this movie. And I don't think without showing you clips, you're going to believe a lot of what I've said. So, let's play a little game. Riddle me this. Which of these events happened in Madam Web? Can you guess the one? Madam Web is born in a cave in Peru with the help of magic spider people. That's true. In fact, in the movie and the interviews, everybody is scared of saying the word Spider-Man.
Do you have a spider person? Because I feel like as the years go by, I keep discovering new spider people.
Because even in the movie, there's a line, and I wrote it down. He could walk on the ceiling. No, he can't. He was using his hands. It was more like a crawl. It was more like a spider person. Every interview and the movie talks about spider people or spider persons. He's a man, dear. It's okay. You can say it.
Do you have a spider person?
There's even a moment in the movie where he's standing on a car and he's very clearly like jumps as if he's about to go web slinging through skyscrapers, but they cut off the scene just before he does it. I'm assuming they don't have the rights to web slinging either. The 3 spider women never get powers and are only seen in costumes during dream sequences. True. Everything you saw in the trailer, basically the movie.
So come.
Although one trick they could pull in the trailer that they couldn't pull in the movie is that whenever anyone spoke, they covered it with a different picture.
That doesn't make any sense.
This movie has the worst dubbing of any movie I've ever seen. Half the lines weren't ever said by the person. There's even a bit where he's interrogating her for a code so that he can access sort of governmental CCTV cameras. This code could have been anything, and yet for some reason, in their tiny little minds, they decided to dub over whatever code she said with a different code. So you could literally see her start talking, and then the words start coming out. This isn't your granddad's ADR, where they'd show the back of someone's head and words would come out that were clearly not said by the person, although there is a lot of that as well. These people will dub over entirely new lines with a close-up of somebody's face when their lips aren't moving and not care in the least.
But I guess it doesn't really matter.
And yet it feels more like a video game movie that was made because of some German tax loophole. Nobody cared about this movie, including the cast.
How you landed on the face.
I haven't seen the movie, so I don't know what face I'm making.
Maybe that's why it sets unfortunate records for the Spider-Man universe. When it hit 14% critic score, which is lower than Morbius, and with its audience score making it the only, I'm assuming that's Sony Spider universe? I really hate all these different universes. To garner a rotten rating. And everybody is amazed that she hasn't even seen the pissing movie.
I haven't seen the movie, so I don't know.
So it comes as little surprise then when it was released on a Wednesday where it earned $6 million. But then we had Thursday's numbers, which dropped to 2.5 million. So when you are dropping 64% in one day, normally people are talking about those kind of drops next week. Who knows, maybe people are going to claim there was a massive rush to the cinema to see Madam Web for Valentine's Day, followed by a load of divorces. Or in Nerdrotic's case, getting set on fire. And everybody who's done this movie, Screen Rant had a load of interviews with the actual cast, only to turn around and go, yeah, all of your changes are going to alienate any fans that she actually had. Yes, all 2 of them. There's probably only about 4 people in the world who knew who she was. Madam Web is meant to be a live depiction of the classic clairvoyant's origins. Well, I think that depends on who you ask.
Madam Web has no backstory, and so that really gave us a lot of freedom. And
I don't know how you're going to depict something that they think doesn't exist. Either way, the amount of changes to their powers, and backstory is extensive, probably because they didn't know it existed.
Freedom to tell the story that they felt would be right now, still set in 2003 so that you could have the song Toxic.
And will likely be quite frustrating to many.
One of the reasons we set it back in time is so that, first of all, Dakota Johnson could be in the movie.
In Madam Web, Cassie is a paramedic who can see the future, yes, which makes it particularly weird when she says this about the movie, repeatedly.
And it just felt different to me. It's really grounded in reality.
Paramedic who can see the future.
To keep it real.
And it's not just Screen Rant that dived in on hating the show. Even ABC News thought, well, this one's safe to attack. We'll get in on that. For some reason, their review took longer than mine to come out. And bearing in mind that Mary Sue enjoyed it, this still gets your spidey senses tingling, yes. I have a feeling I know why they like the movie.
Celeste, the theme of empowerment is present with all of your characters.
Maddie taught me how to empower myself.
I'm just excited to see, you know, all these powerful women.
Really wants them to be the most powerful version of themselves.
No wedgies, please.
Quickly changed their tune though, didn't they? A guide to the wildly disappointing cameos, and talking about how the mid-production script changes might explain the dreadful reviews. Oh, we liked it, but nobody else did. If Sony's goal was to prove to the world that they haven't scraped the bottom of the barrel with Morbius, they can give themselves a hearty pat on the back. They liked it at first, then they saw which way the wind was blowing. The weird thing is, they talk about how during an interview she said, you know, there were drastic changes to the script, you can't say what they were, but it doesn't take much way in detective work to conclude that the script changes contributed heavily to Madam Web's nosedive. So about that, I mean, they will contribute to all of the dubbing that happened everywhere, which made the movie look like a farce. But you would hope if you're making changes, those changes would at least improve something. I don't know why people would change a script and make it worse. That seems weird. No, Madam Web definitely had more than its own problems without the script changes. Evil Spider-Man is killed by a large Pepsi sign. That's true. In fact, that happens during the ending scene where they deliberately run into a building which is condemned, dangerous to step in, and full of fireworks and explosives. Her idea is, I can see the future, I can guide everyone through this. Like trying to avoid some kind of Final Destination style trap. The issue is, as she's going through saving everybody, she kills a helicopter.
Julia, get down!
She's there calling the helicopter over to come and save them. This is her plan. This is what she saw as the escape route to the building. So she led it into a place where it exploded. The superhero, the good person in the movie, killed innocent people in a helicopter.
You're showing off.
Maybe a little.
I swear, Madam Web is the villain of this movie. Poor Spider-Man, he's just defending himself from the evil, violent killers that were literally trying to murder him. Just because it hadn't happened yet, he can see the future, it counts. Madam Web becomes wanted for kidnapping by the NYPD. To be fair, she did kidnap a load of kids. Madam Web runs down evil Spider-Man in her car twice. There is a really weird scene where they're at I think you call it a diner in America. She leaves them in the forest to go somewhere else. Comes back, they're not there, so she picks a random direction in the forest and finds them. At that point, the Spider-Man arrives and kills them all. Turns out she was just looking into the future. So she then gets in her car, drives to the diner, which the girls had said was down the road, and for some reason driving there took far longer than walking there. So it was already in the diner when she arrived and she hit him with the car. If that sounds pretty arbitrary, yeah, that's the movie.
You stupid woman with your weird child!
Peter Parker is born but not named. I was not paying enough attention to notice cameos. Madam Web inexplicably splits into 3 ghost-like copies of herself near the— yes. Oh, I'm kidding, they all happen. She has superpowered deja vu. She can very slightly see into the future.
And it just felt different to me. It's really grounded in reality.
But she gets told, as I went over in the previous video, if you take on responsibility, you will gain power. So when she needs to save the 3 girls from 3 different dangerous situations at the same time, for some reason she hears that line in her head again. Oh, I've took on responsibility, and now my thirst for power can be satiated, and splits herself into 3 magic beams of light, which have like ghostly apparitions of her own face on the end. I told you. I wish it was on streaming, because you're not going to believe what I said otherwise. And she, like, pulls them up to safety with the magic beams of glowing light. I don't know what this has to do with Spider-Man. I don't know what this has to do with clairvoyancy. I don't know what that has to do with the power of my mind.
I was really drawn to the idea of a young woman having her superpower be her mind.
To keep it real.
Because that gets repeated throughout the entire movie. It's a very, very basic, smashed-in-your-face analogy. Probably because of this.
Theme of empowerment.
To empower myself.
All these powerful women.
Be the most powerful.
Wedgies.
Obviously, when people give interviews, they've had talking points and lines. For Dakota, one of them seems to be this.
Having her superpower be her mind.
That talking point is all throughout the movie. Everybody keeps repeating it. The villain keeps walking at her while she's losing the fight, saying it to her. He'll be talking to the hacker, who's a woman, you know. If you think of an image of a hacker in your mind, obviously she's going to have XX chromosomes. All the computer geeks renowned for that stereotype. I don't know why the movie's playing into it, but it is. Anyway, multiple times she's on the floor and he's walking at her. You can't just beat me with your mind. You've only got your mind. You can't beat me. You can't expect to beat me with your mind. Because she's been told by the magic spider person in the forest, who's a man, but they can't call him Spider-Man. Now, you may not have been given super strength or the ability to climb walls, but do have your mind.
To keep it real.
And so that is the battle of the movie, because empowerment! Yes, those pesky menfolk may be far stronger and agile and be able to climb walls, but the sisterhood, we can use our minds.
What parts of Madam Web did you feel like most connected to?
I love that she really starts to honor her mind.
The movie does make this analogy that bluntly, repeatedly. There's also a movie in the car where they're discussing how Spider-Man can climb across a ceiling. One goes, that's impossible, only for the reply to come back, yes, it can't happen because the human foot doesn't have enough friction in order to be able to climb across a ceiling. That's science. No one looks at it and goes, well, science didn't seem to stop him. That's useless. And she looks at it distraught and goes, science is useless. I half expected it to go, we need more women in STEM. No, the only amazing thing about this movie is that someone managed to write an article about the worst thing. I can't choose one. Even they go, pretty much everything is bad. The script, the acting, the cinematography. But one thing towers over the rest. It's that the movie lies to you that these girls are going to get powers and become heroes. But they never do. No. They do remain as annoying as they start, though. So that's something.
Y2K in the early 2000s is so bad. Like, it's so in right now. And
I did briefly hope that when they ran into the exploding building, they wouldn't come out.
I live in New York, and that's like what everybody is wearing. I was just really excited to explore like the fashion.
That's when I would have stopped the movie. At least we could have left the audience with some hope.
Because I had never seen an action scene to a Britney Spears song.
Only a woman would think to do that.
I'm not about to let a man take credit for a woman's work.
We've even got people making lists of the 7 most ridiculous things that happened in Madam Web, ranked by headaches. There's the computer skills. With the fact that when they start hunting down the people by pictures from his memory, they're perfect photo quality recreations of exactly what is seen. That's not my biggest problem with the computer hacker's skills, but she is remarkably fine with killing teenage women. In fact, when she de-ages his future visions to see what they look like now, she goes, oh, they're just teenagers. I didn't know we were going to kill teenagers. Which he replies, well, they're teenagers now, but in the future. That's an actual line from the show. Yes.
That to me felt like something I haven't seen and something that might be really inspiring to people right now, especially young women.
Yes, they may be teenagers now, but if you give it a few years, they won't be, which is why it's fine to wipe them out. That's not the only time that happens. Earlier on, he pulls someone from an intelligence agency so he can get access to the CCTV, takes her back to his place and bangs her. He didn't need to do that for the code. I guess it was just like a perk of the job.
Give me a noun.
Boob.
We're off to a great start.
The thing is, while they are actually sleeping, he has a vision of his own death again, and he just starts telling her about it. He's like, yeah, you know, they're gonna kill me. But then randomly he goes, you know, I'm gonna have to kill them first. I am gonna find and kill these people. And she's just like, oh. Now you would think at that point, considering she's lying next to him, particularly in a vulnerable position, but I think I need to leave. No. She just goes, and this is a direct quote, oh, that's a buzzkill. This random bloke you met last night is saying he's gonna murder people, and you're calling it a buzzkill. And then rather than going, you're a deluded nutcase, I need to go out of here, she starts to actually comfort him. Oh, well, it's all fine. He said I'm going to die in the future, and she's like, yes, we all die someday. On top of that, we had them starting forest fires that they never put out when they left. They say Ben Parker is terrible at his job, but that is not really his fault. That's the script pulling him down so that they can make her look better. Because as he's gone, this patient's fine. She goes and screams and goes, wait, you need to check his abdomen. And then he finds internal bleeding. That's not a him issue. That's a weird discriminatory bigots trying to drag everyone down so we can make Madam Web look amazing issue. But what's new? This is Hollywood. Not exactly superhero behavior, because she knocks a bomb under another passenger's car and kills them instead. Innocent people. That is now twice that she has murdered innocent people.
Honestly, like the least weird thing that's happened all day.
Cassie's mom was on a mission in the Amazon right before she died. Oh yeah, she goes to research spiders to cure a disease that the baby has while she's pregnant and literally about to give birth, because she gets shot and immediately gives birth. Now, she is saved by magic spider people who just get her to be bitten by spiders. I mean, if it's that easy, it's amazing I don't have superpowers. The amount of spiders in this house. Ezekiel's suit, I'm assuming if they could even be bothered to come up with an explanation. They would say he saw this in the future and made it. And Cassie's trip to the Amazon, oh, when this happened. There's a point where she's running with the girls, where she puts them off with a random bloke. This guy, by the way, who know that she's being hunted for kidnapping with these kids by the police, doesn't give them to the police. No, he decides to also kidnap the children while she goes to Peru for a week to randomly go back to the forest where her mum was researching spiders with the villain right before she died.
Like, it's so in right now. And
she also meets another guy who's now learned how to wear clothes rather than Amazon strings or whatever it was in the first time, who basically makes her more powerful by curing her childhood trauma. Yes, this bit is very Echo, and I have a feeling this is going to be an ongoing running theme throughout lots of movies that are made by women. You just need to get in touch with your emotions and see a therapist, and then you become really powerful. Not that Cassie actually has much to worry about. In fact, it seems all her problems are in her own head.
To keep it real.
Her mum went to the rainforest to find a cure for her, but because she was shot, she died in childbirth. The thing is, Cassie blames her mum for dying in childbirth. There's literally a scene where Cassie travels back in time to see her mum while she's pregnant, and she says to her, "Why did you hate me so much? Love, she never even knew you. She died giving birth to you. What about that says I hate you?"
I was just talking to the three girls and telling them that you're giving like millennial mother like energy.
Did you think that she popped you out, saw your face and thought, "Oh, that's horrific," and then died to get away from you? But that is the linchpin of her entire arc. That she finds out that her mum didn't actually hate her, and that hating her own baby isn't why she decided to die in childbirth. Shocking, I know. But by overcoming that trauma, she becomes more powerful than you could even imagine, and can split into 3 people with a magic laser beam. Responsibility that she takes on isn't to, you know, the neighborhood, it's not to save the world or anything like that. It's actually to take on the responsibility of motherhood to these 3 random people who also don't have parents for various arbitrary reasons. In fact, one of them shouldn't even be here. It's weird to put in a movie, to be honest. It's very difficult to have sympathy for someone when they're going, "I'm a criminal." And the movie has so many arbitrary things like that. It starts where they're just going through the rainforest,
researching spiders right before she died.
You just get bit by that spider and you get powers. Anyone who gets bit by that spider will have powers. So her mum's bodyguard steals one, takes it back, and that's how he gets powers himself. But he shoots Cassie's mum, and the spider people get the mum bitten by a spider when they're trying to save her life, but unfortunately she dies, the baby's born, and then somehow the baby, which has been captured by tribespeople that don't know how to wear clothes, rather than just getting raised in that area, which is what you would expect, manages to get back to the United States, I don't know how they knew where that was from, with all the papers that her mum had, and gets raised there in the foster system. After that, there's a load of weird scenes, like she goes to a party and starts yelling at the men grilling that they don't know how to grill, and then his wife comes along and also tells him, "You don't know how to grill?" It's like, "Love, if you want to, I'm more than happy to have you cook. I thought you were too busy cleaning, but if you want to take over, you're more than welcome."
She's beautiful and thoughtful. Shine wherever you go. I used to stick to your gut, to yourself.
I'm glad you like it.
The villain gets visions that people are going to kill him, so he starts hunting them down by their faces, although it turns out that was just a curse for stealing the spider in the first place. It's not actually a true vision, because he doesn't have that power. But this prompts all of them to run away, because they all end up in a car together, completely coincidentally. There was another weird line about that, from what I remember. Yeah, the hacker brings up, "That's very strange, that's too much of a coincidence," and he goes, "There must be something that connects them. Or something that will." Like, yeah, you thought that sounded really deep, didn't you? But it isn't. These people don't even have spider powers. And even if they did, if they've all somehow magically ended up on the same train, well, now you've removed free will from them. That's quite a lot of negative side effects for a story. After that, the rest of the film is basically Final Destination, but just running from this guy who's simply trying to defend himself from them in the future. And after her realizing that actually being a mum is a good thing, although at this point it's far too late for her, which is why she's got a cat instead, which she refers to as Cat. Great script writing there. We get the final twist at the end where she's seen the future and set him up to die under the Pepsi sign, despite the fact that she killed the people in the helicopter. And she goes, "You never had the power to see the future. It was a curse. You were never fated for them to kill you. The person you should have been seeing was me." And then he dies. Yeah, and it's like, yeah, you're not making yourself the moral one in this situation either. Him defending himself from them or him defending himself from you in the future still makes him the good guy who was defending himself.
This is bad. This is really bad.
I've taken a spider as a pet in a rainforest, and now you're going to kill me. isn't a defense. There's also a really weird scene where she leaves them in the forest to go and find information about the spider people. And she realizes she needs to find that because at one point in the forest, they are talking about how he's crawling around like a spider person. Like, hang on. In my tiny little mind, I've connected two things and I've heard spider person before. So she goes back to her mother's notes to find out about some arachnos or something. The spider people that lived in the forest and saved people from evildoers. And presumably were evil themselves because the spiders don't pick people. Anyone gets powers from them. And at this point, despite the fact that we've seen her go through these pictures and photographs and stuff multiple times, which makes sense because it's the only connection she's got to her mother, she then finds a photograph in it and goes, so you would have seen that photograph before, love.
We gotta be smart about this.
You've had this your entire life. You would have seen the photograph. And then she turns over and finds out it's in Peru, which she just coincidentally never saw or forgot about her entire life until she needed to find it in the plot. Well, that's a coincidence. Oh yeah, and then she goes to Peru, and then the spider therapist, who's been staying there for 30 years just waiting for her to come back because he knew she would, which is why he said at the start of the movie that she'd come back. This actually happened. Once he's helped her get over the fact that she thought her mum hated her even though her mum never met her because she died in childbirth, he goes, your mind has infinite potential.
What are you excited most about?
The fact that it's a movie.
To keep it real.
Which makes it entirely unbelievable because he's met her. Then there's a load of stupid stuff, like at one point a woman's about to give birth and so they go to the hospital, but they take the people that are being searched for by the police and the villain with them. They're supposed to be lying low. If they stay at the house, nothing goes wrong. The rest of the movie doesn't happen. But they all decide to get in the car together and go to the pissing hospital. For people's minds who have infinite potential and are supposed to be the smart people rather than the super strong people, you're making a lot of stupid decisions. Like when the pregnant woman gets really offended that her husband tells her to put a seatbelt on, despite the fact that she's pregnant and giving birth. Yeah, love, even if you don't care about your safety, I bet you care about the safety of your child, eh?
Is that a question?
Script strengths. This is why I wish I could show you clips of it and go through the movie in a proper review, because it includes lines like, you're just like your mother. Yes, I am. And you can't beat me with just your mind. With the reply, what makes you so sure? Oof, I mean, it's like Shakespeare being in the room. That's why it's even more surprising when it gets such a terrible box office. You still, after all this, find people like The Verge hitting peak cope. Madam Web is a love letter to the golden age of bad comic book movies. Yes, it's bad deliberately. It's actually a good thing that it's bad because it reminds you of the nostalgic pleasure you got from bad movies. This ought to be fun. Isn't great or terrible. Definitely terrible. But it's surprisingly committed to transporting you back to 2003. A golden age of comic book movies that were regressively mid or worse. Well, this is worse than mid. It's easy to forget how unabashedly unserious these kind of projects usually were. No, this was a very serious project. It was just ass. Why in interviews they keep saying how grounded it is.
And it just felt different to me. It's really grounded in reality, and
this was meant to be a realistic movie. Projects didn't take the source material seriously at all. Well, they don't now either. And while they might not have been great, they were the sort of films audiences knew how to have fun with. And myself, I could do that with Willow or She-Hulk. If this was on streaming, I could with this. But let's not pretend that's the audience's job. It's not the audience's job to force themselves to find some kind of enjoyment out of a terrible movie. For me, it just comes naturally. I start laughing at it. I can't help it. But most normal people, when they go to the cinema, would rather watch something that was good. You shouldn't have to learn how to appreciate a car crash to pay money for a product. Disorienting exposition dumps in a film opening act are always a warning sign. But this makes it feel as if the filmmakers are trying to keep you from understanding what's going on. You can see how the girl's thinly fleshed out personality quirks might one day make them interesting. No, these people are never going to become interesting. They're all annoying in their own unique way.
Maddie taught me how to empower myself in my own personal life.
Yeah, so I went into this movie, learned about empowerment, and now I'm an insufferable cow.
Very comfortable saying when she doesn't agree with something. She's very comfortable expressing her anger and discomfort and getting her needs met.
Best thing that ever happened to me. This joke in my last video, I didn't realize how accurate that was going to be when I saw the movie. If she's the poster girl for empowerment, well, it does explain most of the 21st century.
Are you taking the piss?
Johnson's deadpan performance approaches most situations with a pronounced sense of apathy. Yes, I don't think she's meant to. I think that's just how she acts. Comes across the same in the interviews, actually.
You're wearing a flannel around your waist.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Like, why did I wear that all the time?
Why?
Everything seems to be said as if she was just thinking about something else a second earlier and you caught her by surprise. Like, oh, sorry, I wasn't listening to the question. Let me give a bare-bones response. Who's to blame for choking the life out of Madam Web? The obvious suspect would be the director. Better luck next time. The real culprit here is the greed manifested by studio suits. How? The budget was $80 million. You can't have a go at them for cheaping out on this one, love. No, you can definitely blame the director. and the scriptwriters. And judging by the acting performances, the actors as well.
Madam Web has no backstory. And so that really gave us a lot of freedom. And
at this point, you could even come down to the very foundational principles of the movie. And there's no end in sight. Next two installments are Kraven the Hunter and Venom 3. Definitely feels more like a threat than a promise. Madam Web comes in under 2 hours, and that's the best thing I can say about it. Even the thought of a sequel would be cruel and unusual punishment. Despite the film being criticized as the worst film ever made, Dakota Johnson expressed her willingness to return for a sequel. Maybe I'll get that 50 Shades of Spider-Man after all. And having seen it, I'm not sure it pulls this one off. One of the worst superhero movies in years and one of the most enjoyable. I think I would need to have it on streaming to make a video out of it for me to agree with that. As happened with Willow, a lot of my thoughts about how much I enjoy a movie comes down to how much I enjoy making the videos about the movie. And I really enjoyed the last one I made, but not the same as a proper review with clips. Its mockable, memeable trailer had me prepared for the worst, and it didn't disappoint. By recent standards of the genre, even jankiness comes as a pleasant change of pace. The action scenes are spatially coherent and largely free of computer-generated murk. They're ass. They're really bad. That whole scene in the diner is one of the worst fight scenes you could find. It's terribly edited together. Most of the villain's dialogue seems to have been dubbed by an actor who doesn't particularly sound like him. Everyone else seems dubbed by people who aren't saying the same lines that they were on camera. What did you want to bring to the character of Cassandra that wasn't necessarily on the page? I really wanted Cassie to be hyper-intelligent and clever, but to have a dry sense of humor and really be kind of spicy and saucy and be able to interact. I have noticed something during the reviews of these. There's a very big difference in interview style. Like, on the one hand, you have a guy asking questions like this.
What did you want to bring to the character wasn't necessarily on the page?
And on the other hand, you have a woman asking questions like this.
You're wearing a flannel around your waist. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Like, why did I wear that all?
I know who I'd prefer to be asking interview questions in the future. No, this was definitely a movie where the reviews were accurate. Madam Web is a desperate comic book misfire that seems embarrassed by its own existence. All of the actresses seem embarrassed to be in the movie. I mean, there is phoning in a performance where you just can't be bothered, but in this is like, I wish I wasn't here. I'm just gonna say my lines and try and be really small and not noticed on the screen. And I think I've already made my point about the difference between the red carpet images of the actresses and what they dressed them in the movie. No, Madam's Web is a Marvel junkie spin-off, a tangled mess. It's a 1-star mess, an incoherent film, a movie where even the main actress was sort of mystified by her own powers, and where she hasn't seen the movie yet, and people are guessing she probably never will. That definitely makes her the lucky one. She got paid to make it and then never saw it. That's a win-win. No, this is the movie which is making people beg to stop the shared cinematic universes, which is particularly amazing when this isn't even part of any of them. It's actually having further knock-on effects to other parts of the industry which is not tied to. I'm guessing that it would have been, and then they saw it and like, no, we need to separate the brands. That will actually taint everything else if we don't. And quite frankly, I can't blame them, because while I may look forward to this coming out on streaming, as if I have nothing else to cover, it would definitely make a fun video. Getting tainted by watching this movie isn't something I would recommend. And it looks like nor would the critics. But those are just my thoughts. What are yours? Let me know down in the comments below. Like the video if you like the video, subscribe. More videos like this in the future, and I will see you in the next one. And bye-bye.